All right, so the Jackets season has come to an end, but it was, in my opinion, a successful season overall. We're going to do year in review of the Jackets season, kind of what went right for them this year to allow them to significantly improve from last year to this year. There's a couple things, obviously. So we're going to look at Zach Werenski first. Obviously, he was huge for the Blue Jackets' success this year. Definitely his best season of NHL hockey he's played since, I believe, 2016, 2017 was his first year. Set a new career high in goals, assists, and points. He was over a point a game with 82 points in 81 games. Led the Blue Jackets in points. Just an overall really successful season for Werenski. I think he can kind of maintain this type of season he had. I don't know about 82 points, but I think he can be around 70 to 80 points for the rest of his prime, which is he's still got a good few years in there. He's only 27, so I think successful year overall for him. I think he can maintain this level of play for quite a bit of time. Another person we're gonna have to talk about is Kirill Marchenko, who also set some career highs. He set a career high in goals, assists, and points as well. He was second on the Blue Jackets in points this year in 79 games played. He had 31 goals, 43 assists for 74 points. He's now played 216 games, all in the Blue Jackets uniform, of course. This was actually the season he played the most games he's ever played this season as well, with 79. But I think, again, this is a pace that he can maintain. I think he's probably just under a point a game guy, probably around that 75, maybe 80 point range for him as well. Maybe 40 goals, he'll clip that, or eclipse that at some point. At least from his first season in the NHL, you kind of got the sense that he was a pure goal scorer with the 59 games played. He had 21 goals, and 4 assists. So I think you'll definitely see maybe slight improvement from Marchenko, but I think this is kind of what he is. I do want to get into some players that I think will be improving. So we're going to go to Kent Johnson next. We're going to kind of go through almost every player, I would say. Maybe not all of them, but almost every single one. So it's going to be a bit of a longer one. Kent Johnson, again, had a huge season for the Jackets, was hurt for some of it, so did not play every game. He played 68 games. He did set a new career high in goals and assists with 24 goals and 33 assists for 57 points. I do think he gets better. I think he becomes kind of that 80, maybe 90 point guy. He is 22 years old, just finished his, I'm going to call it, third season. He only played 9 games in 21-22, well after the Jackets were out of it, and he just kind of came up with Nick Blankenburg. I think they both played their first game at the same time. But yeah, so really 3 seasons of NHL hockey. He's improving. I think he probably hits that point a game pace next season if I were to guess. And he's going to be huge for the future. Another guy, our big guy, our most important player for the future, Adam Fantilli, had a great second half of the year. Struggled a bit in the first half, but you got to keep in mind he got injured around halfway through the season last year. He only played 49 games before he got hurt. So it took him a little bit. He really hadn't played a full season of NHL hockey until the halfway point of this year, and that's kind of when he took off. 31 goals, 23 assists for 54 points in 82 games this year. Played all 82 games, so you love to see that. He also scored a goal in all of the last 4 games. He had 6 goals in his last 4 games to finish off the season. He was an absolute monster near the end, so I don't know if this is unreasonable to think. I think he definitely hits that around a point a game next year. I think he hits like 70, 75 next year if I had to guess. I don't think it's ridiculous to say he could be a 90, 95, maybe 100. I don't want to put that out there, but maybe a 100-point scorer. I'd say probably 90 to 95 range if I had to guess. 40 goal seasons in there, I'm sure, are to come shortly, maybe as soon as next year, but we'll see with Fantilli. I'm very happy with the second half of the season. First half was a little slow. He significantly picked it up in the second half. Next player we're going to talk about is Dmitry Voronkov. Voronkov had up and down kind of year. He had 47 points in 73 games, 23 goals, 24 assists. He did have a new career high in goals and assists. He played 2 less games than he did last year, so 2 less games than his rookie year, but had more points. The points per game was significantly higher, or at least a good amount higher. I do think when he plays a full healthy season, he's probably a 60, 65-point guy, if I had to guess. Maybe I'll go 60. 60-point guy, may hit that 30-goal mark, if I had to guess. He does need to play a full season. He hasn't done that yet. I do think it's there for him. I think he'll be able to do that. He's played most of the season, both years he's been in the league, so I'm not too concerned about his injuries or anything. But I think for Voronkov, he, I think, has the least amount of potential of the guys we've talked about so far. I do think you can call this season a success for him because he did improve in a lot of areas. He had a very bad pointless and goalless drought. He went from March 4th all the way up until April 8th without scoring a goal. And during that drought, he only had, I believe, 2 points in there. So really, he just had a really bad drought for about a month, and then he kind of picked back up where he was at before. So that's where that 60-point, I think, comes in. I think most years he won't have a month where he literally only gets 2 points. I think that's a little I think that's not who he is. So Dmitry Voronkov, I'd still say a successful year overall. Next person I want to talk about is another surprise, I'd say, is Dante Fabbro. Fabbro, I think for him, you'll probably have to look more at like the eye test with anything, because his stats aren't anything that's going to like jump out at you. Pretty solid, I will say they are pretty solid. In 62 games with the Jackets this year, he had 9 goals and 17 assists for 26 points. He actually has 98 career points now. But he is 26, so he's a year younger than Werenski. And I think the reason everyone is a huge fan of Fabbro in Columbus, he is relatively responsible defensively. Although I did see him get it happened a couple of times where he got put on, like, not a poster, I guess, but he got walked a few times. But the plus 20 on a team that I think had like a plus 5 goal differential, plus 4 goal differential, that does stand out a little bit, I would say. A plus 20, plus minus, again, not a great stat, but a high enough plus minus, and you know you're doing something right. So a plus 20 plus minus is pretty good, I would say. And 26 points in 62 games from someone who's playing pretty responsible defense, I'd say is pretty good for me. He actually had a plus 23 with the Jackets. He was just a minus 3 with the Predators, but you can't really blame him for that because the Predators suck. Overall, I would say Fabbro, successful season. What I will say, this will be separate. I do want them to sign Fabbro. I need that to happen. He really allowed Werenski to, I think, flourish a little bit, kind of let him play his game. And Fabbro is that like responsible defenseman that would cover for him if he needed it. Not that Werenski needed it all the time. Werenski was very good, I feel like, for the most part, getting back when he went up into play. But Fabbro was very responsible when Werenski was basically playing wing. So I like Fabbro. Successful waiver pickup, successful season for him. I think he'd probably tell you the same thing. So, yes, good job. Next player we're going to look at is Ivan Provorov. Mixed bag with Provorov, to be honest with you. You don't notice Provorov very often, I can't lie, which might be a good thing. Yeah, I don't know if you always want to notice your defenseman. I don't know where I stand on Provorov, to be honest with you. In 82 games this year, he had 7 goals, 26 assists, 33 points. It's very similar to the year he had last year, where he had 32 points in 82 games, and the year before that he had 27 in 82, and the year before that he had 31 in 79. So I think he is what he is. I think he has that potential to get 40 points. He did it one year with the Predators. He did improve. He had that minus 11 with the Jackets last year, plus 11 this year. Again, not a huge stat, but a big enough improvement, and again, you're doing something right. So he did play better. The point totals are fine. I think you're fine with a 33-point season out of Provorov. I don't think that's too crazy. I do think you gave up. I think Jarmo gave up a little too much to maybe get him, but as Provorov plays perfectly fine. I think he had a fine season. I don't think it was too crazy by any means. Not like amazingly successful year, but just about, I think, just where he is. I think he had a perfectly acceptable year. I don't know if I want them to sign him or not, because then he might be asking for too many years, and the Jackets keep drafting defensemen, and those players are going to eventually need to somehow find a way into the NHL. So if there's just a stockpile of mid to decent defensemen on the Blue Jackets line, it's going to be a little hard for those 19, 20-year-old players to get the games in. I don't know on Provorov. That's kind of iffy for me, but he's been pretty good, I'd say, this year. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it success, but good enough. We'll put good enough on there. Next guy we're going to talk about is Elvis. We'll talk about Elvis, because this one's going to be the hardest, I think, one to kind of decide, if that makes sense, how he was. So, Elvis played 53 games this year. He played a lot of games. Elvis also had a 26, 21, and 5 record. So, he was over NHL 500. He, however, had a .318 goals against average and an .892 save percentage. Both of those bad stats. The other thing with Elvis is he's not like those stats kind of line up with where he is in some more advanced stats. Elvis was really bad in the goals saved above expected category. I'm literally scrolling down here. It takes really long to find Elvis, a long time. Elvis is down here at 87th overall out of all goalies this year. He is a minus 8.2 goals saved above expected. So the stats, the more advanced stats and the straight up just stats show you Elvis did not have a good year. He had games where he definitely kept the Jackets in it. You think of that the outdoor game where he stood on his head for that entire game. But there are better goalie alternatives to Elvis, in my humble opinion. And I've been yelling about it for quite a bit, and they finally listened. So we'll go through all the goalies. So next we'll go Tarasov. Tarasov, funny enough, I actually think maybe pulled himself out a little bit of how much I hated him. Although the end of the season did not do him any favors. He played 20 games this year, had 7 wins, and one shutout that he unfortunately lost in, because shootouts, the goal doesn't count against you, but obviously the goal still counts. So he had a shutout in a game he lost, which is quite unfortunate. But he played 20 games, had a .354 goals against and an .881 save percentage, which is bad. His goal saved above expected was higher than Elvis's, but that could just simply be because he played so many less games. He had a minus 4.4 in just 20 games, which is bad. So I think it is time to move off of one of the two of them, whichever one that is, that's up to them. as long as our third guy that I'm about to talk about is the one playing next year. I don't care who the other guy is. Jet Greaves is the next guy. My glorious king, Jet Greaves. 11 games played, 7 wins, 2 shutouts. He was 7-2-2, a 1.91 goals against average. I literally am smiling looking at this. A 938 save percentage. I'm going to take you guys through this just so you can enjoy Jet along with me. I'm going to read off every stat from this year because he did have rough games in there. I don't want that to be mistaken. He wasn't flawless by any means, but he really found his game at the end. 946 and the loss, by the way. He had a 946 and a loss against Washington. 852 against Anaheim and a loss. Or an overtime loss. Both of those were overtime losses. Tampa an 875 and a loss. Montreal an 871 and a win. 969 in a win, 900 in a loss, 951 in a win, 100, so 1.000, big shutout in a win on 22 saves, 9.968, 1 goal let in, 31 saves in a win, a shutout, 29 saves in a win, a 973, 36 saves, 1 goal allowed. Jet Greaves is him. They need to sign that man. They need to... He should be at least splitting games next season. If he's not at least splitting games next year, the management has failed the Blue Jackets because this man is too good to not be playing at least 41 games next year. So Jet Greaves, successful season. Other 2 goalies, no, poopy, bad. Not that, like, honestly, they've been worse, so I'm not going to rag on them too much, actually. But Jet Greaves, significantly better than them. Yeah. The next couple players we're going to talk about is our boy Boone Jenner, big captain Boone Jenner, who came back and was an absolute dog when he came back. Boone Jenner, I've always liked Boone Jenner, but he was masterful up until, I guess, the last 4 games of the season where he didn't get a point, which is fine. He had 19 points in 26 games. That's pretty solid for Boone. Unfortunately, the man cannot put together a healthy season. He hasn't played a full season of hockey since 2016-17. Since then, the most he's played in the season is 77, and he's only actually gone over 70 games 3 times since the 2017-18 season. So, unfortunately, he can't stay healthy, but when he plays, he's always good. I don't know if you can call the season necessarily a success for him because of how little he played. But I think he played well when he was here. I think he was a +2, +1, +1, +1, even in the games he didn't get a point at the end of the year. So, I don't know. I think Boone played very good. I think it's what you'd expect from Boone Jenner, just solid play, around the half a point a game, maybe more, maybe less, but around there. He actually scored less than normal. He's usually on pace for about 25 to 30 goals, maybe a little more than 30 goals sometimes. But I think he played well. I think he was kind of the maturity that they needed. It took him a while. It took a couple people a while to kind of get in the groove of the season once they came back. But I think he ended up being fine in the end. We are going to talk about our boy, Sean Monahan, next. Sean Monahan is everything we dreamed of, and probably more than when we signed him. He played 54 games this year, 19 goals, 38 assists for 57 points, over a point a game for Monahan, which is something he hasn't done since the 2018-19 season where he had 82 points in 78 games. Again, the only problem, or one of the big problems the Jackets seemed to face was that, one, they weren't necessarily always playing their best players, like they weren't playing Jet Greaves. And 2, some of their best guys weren't playing that much. I mean, Boone Jenner didn't play until, March something, and then Monahan missed, 28 games this year? So that's kind of the Jackets' problem, is that their best players, or their very good players at least, weren't, playing games. I'd say overall, though, for Monahan, he called it a successful season. He had to go through an insane amount this year, and he was fantastic in almost every game he was playing in. I can't think of really a game where he like was bad. The worst Monahan ever is like he just doesn't do all that much, but he's usually doing a lot. It's just that's kind of his worst game, is you don't really notice him, but it doesn't happen very often. Plus 19, again, pretty good as well. Monahan overall, successful year. How's the contract going to age, especially with him getting injured all the time? Who knows? But for now, very, very good season for him. I think he'd probably agree. Next guy we're going to talk about is James Van Riemsdyk. I don't know. Really, I couldn't tell you what the overall feeling is on him. I think most or more than half of Jackets fans would say they want him re-signed. Pretty good for a 35-year-old man. He's been in the league forever. He played 71 games this year, 16 goals, 20 assists for 36 points. I do think the 11 games missed, I don't think he was ever injured. I think he was just scratched. Sometimes maintenance reasons because he's a little older, Sometimes he wasn't always playing fantastic, but 36 points in 71 games, 16 goals as well. That's pretty solid depth scoring. He definitely provided, I think, some, even though he was new, and I think he did provide a good amount of leadership for the younger dudes. His ice time was cut by a minute on average from the year before. He played 13:30 on average the year before, played 12:24 this year, and only ended up with 2 less points. So I think you take that all day long, actually. I think he played great. His shooting percentage must be crazy because it looks like he took only 85 shots this year. His shooting percentage was 18.8. He only took 85 shots this entire season and had 16 goals. That's something I didn't notice, but that's pretty cool nonetheless. So overall, JVR, good season. He's played over 1,000 games as well, which I actually forgot for a minute. Great, not great, but good season for him. We are going to talk about our younger defenseman next, our young star. I don't know if star is the right word yet, but possible star in Denton Mateychuk. Came up around halfway through the season, and I don't know if he was maybe surpassing any expectations, but he played as well as I think you'd want him to play, if that makes sense. He wasn't like blowing anyone away, I wouldn't say, when he came out to the NHL, but he was playing just as good as he needed to play. In 45 games this year, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. For him, I think he gets up to that 40-point mark at some point in the future, maybe a little higher than that. With the Monsters, he had 25 points in 27 games in the AHL, led all rookies in scoring when he was in the AHL, or at least all rookies, and I believe all defensemen actually in scoring when he was in the NHL. Or AHL. So good for him. Obviously, the point production slowed down a little bit when he got to the NHL. That's expected, obviously, so nothing concerning with him. I think he played really well. I love the way he skates. It's a little weird. He's really low to the ground, but I like it. And also, he barely gets beat to pucks. He's really hard to get off the puck. He does get bullied a little bit, I will say. I've seen him get hit pretty hard a few times, but he is 5'11", 185, so he does need a little bit of meat on him, I guess. But overall, solid season for him, I would say. I like him. I think he's going to be very good. And I'm excited for the future with him. I think that's really all we got for, significant. I don't want to say there's players that are insignificant, but significant players that played a significant amount of games. Like Branson barely played any games, so it's almost not even worth covering his year. But yeah, that's all I got for now.